Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us tonight. We've got a program that we're going to be discussing about Mr. Allen, and is he a witness or an offender, or what does that mean? But anyway, as always, a little housekeeping in the comment section and chat. Respect each other, respect the mods. If you do have a person of interest, or if you have some information regarding the case, pass that information on to law enforcement. If you have something that you have information for the defense, of course, make contact with the prosecutor or the defense attorney, and through discovery, anything that you give to the prosecution will make it over to the defense. But anyway, just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page whenever we're addressing people. No names, no initials in the chat, and we'll get started. All right. As always, a little brief bio. This is Mrs. Steve, and I'm Steve. I'm retired law enforcement, 20 years of service. Started out working in jail, went the road, went into investigations. And during those 20 years, I've had training all across every aspect of law enforcement you can imagine, from SWAT all the way to becoming a state certified crime scene technician, and which helped my investigative career immensely. I've worked all different types of cases, from simple thefts, burglaries, all the way up to homicides. Then after I retired and became aware of the true crime world and the web sleuths, decided I would like with my channel to try to become a good ambassador for law enforcement, and to assist the web sleuth world, and to understand how law enforcement looks at certain aspects of crime and how we think, and so that we'll have an impact with everyone. But now to get started, we have reached this part of of what we've been looking forward to for almost 6 years. Someone has been charged, Richard Allen, and for the charge and all the charges have been presented, and the warrants and the search warrants and everything that's been done by the law enforcement and the prosecutor side is now starting to be analyzed and being made available to a defense of a suspect that has been charged with 2 murders. And so as we move forward with this, certain things have occurred that these 2 guys are going to be arguing one main thing when it comes to Richard Allen. Is he a witness? And what did he witness? And is he an offender? And what did he commit? And so as we go into this, you're going to see that it's a double-edged sword, that Richard Allen placed himself on that bridge. He contacted law enforcement. And within a day or two of the crime, if we go by what the rumors of how he was and the file was first created, that he placed himself there, which was a surprise to a lot of people. No one had heard his name before. No one had identified him. He had never been interviewed that we know of by any of the social media. And so he's an enigma that just popped up out of nowhere, which is something that the defense, as we go into this, you'll see that he's going to have to overcome. And why is that? And as I make some of my points, you'll start to see what that picture means and what the prosecution will be able to do with that, and what the defense will have to do to counter that and make him, whereas he is a witness to something that he wasn't a part of, because that's the only choice the defense has. That, they've already got an individual that they're having to defend that says, I was on that bridge that day, if that information is true. And if that's part of the probable cause affidavit for the arrest warrants and other information, and most certainly the prosecutor believes that statement for the fact that they've charged him. And for them to charge him, they're going to agree with that he was on that bridge that day, he was present on the trail that day, and to prove their case that he committed 2 counts of murder, they have to prove those points. And so we'll be looking at a lot of that. But as you can see, starting with, if you just took these two pictures, the similarities, there's not, I mean, you can see, whereas you could look at Richard Allen in one of his hiking photos and go over to the bridge guy photo and assume, oh, yes, that's him, most definitely. Well, there's now a lot of people that's been misidentified. And is this the case with Richard Allen? We don't know yet. But that will be arguments in the courts by the prosecutor and by the defense, yay and nay. And what will Richard Allen say about this, and which will be extremely interesting. There's so many things that are about to happen, and as you'll see, of what arguments can be made for or against, because Richard Allen has created something that his defense is going to have a hard time to overcome. He places himself there, and of course, their argument would be is that he came forward to be a good witness, and that's all he is. And they'll have to distance him from the crime scene. They'll have to distance himself from this picture if he can, because if the prosecution is able to make that Richard Allen was on the trails that day, wearing this clothing, wearing that hat, and within 43 seconds, he was in proximity. And if this is him, and he said down the hill, with the voice analysis and all the scientific evidence that can be brought into this case, he's going to have a hard road to travel. And that's just one of the complexities of this case, of how the prosecution and what experts are they going to bring into this case. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch both the prosecution and the defense of this case. And if we get to that point, we don't know what's in the future. We don't know what's in the discovery. We don't even know what's in the probable cause affidavit. But we're looking forward to that. And I think it will be something that will, if there's other as bad actors involved, has been alluded to by the prosecutor, all that will come out in the coming months and through discovery. How much of that will be made public and how much will be sealed, we really don't know currently, but we're looking forward to that. But anyway, one of the things that Richard Allen, about his life is that he has a cell phone footprint. And he's going to have a cell phone footprint that he has established through living in this community for years. What was his daily pre-crime routine? And when I say daily pre-crime, it's what happened before February the 13th, 2017. What was his daily activities? What was the tracking of that cell phone footprint? What times did he get up? What did he check? What phone calls were routine? What was his travels? How often did he turn his phone off? When did he update? They're going to have all this information. And what changed on February the 13th, 2017, and what happened after that post-crime. What was his daily activities? Was there any change? Was there any change from his daily pre-crime, February 13th, to his daily post-crime? But after the crime, was everything absolutely the same? And what will have changed? And then they'll look at, there's been rumors that he visited a trail, and he'll have a historical accounting of that on this cell phone footprint, if that existed. And if so, they will look at that. Where did he normally, how did he normally get to the trail? Where did he park? Where did they, as he traveled by road or did he walk? They will be able, and where did he park? They would be able to tell through this cell phone footprint of his travels. And he'll have to live with that. He's already established it. There's no way that a person would over years know what was going to occur on February the 13th, 2017 in his normal life. And so he wouldn't be able to preset and pre-establish certain events of this is how certain things would happen, and how I would use my phone. And, and so the prosecution will bring that into the courts, and the defense will have to explain anything that the prosecution brings up. And then again, the defense will have equal tasks that they may be able to use this cell phone footprint, and it be a great defense. We just don't know currently what the difference is in his historical use of his phones and on the date of February 13th, 2017. And even into the February 14th, if there was some additional after midnight movements or something that occurred that was, outlier information or certain things that are oddities that had never occurred or didn't normally occur, because we all live with this cell phone footprint. We're tracked constantly. You have these geolocating, there's so many ads and so many things running in these phones that track you. When you walk into a store, sometimes you get messaging from that store, certain sales and things. So there's a lot of things that can go on with a lot of these devices. And so they're going to be able to tell a lot of things about his life through his cell phone footprint, and he'll have to live with it. And then we get into, we're going to have the Richard Allen February 13th, 2017 trail timeline. And we have this for the fact that if it's true that Richard went to law enforcement or that conservation officer and said, hey, I was there that day, there's a lot of questions to be answered. And there would have been a lot of, I don't know what type of canvassing information that officer obtained. We don't have that access to that information yet, but that will be made in discovery. What did the officer require of him to fill out or anything or to answer? And they will look at all that information. Did he normally go there in his off hours when he wasn't at work? Is this something that he did as far as a physical activity, weekly, monthly, or never before? But if we go by what was reported of him, that he went and told that conservation that when that file was created on him, that he was there that day. And we'll be looking at in a future podcast or broadcast as we go along, we'll be looking at some more information about what that means of he put himself within the proximity of a double homicide, and what did law enforcement do to eliminate him, and why did they eliminate him early on? And we'll be doing another segment on that later. But anyway, his timeline will start from, really from the time he woke up that day. What was his movements? What does that cell phone footprint show? And what does his verbal communications with others? Did he make, where did he park that day? Who did he see in a parking lot? Or did he walk? And what homes and what houses, what route did he take? Was there other vehicles in the parking lot? Because if he's a witness, the defense is going to have to prove that, oh, yes, he's a witness, and this is what time he arrived. And those arrival times, from what he stated on that first time that he would have contacted law enforcement, what was that time? And who did he see? And who saw him? Who did he, who were the people on the trail that day that he recognized? He's the pharmacist. And what route did he take on that trail? Who did he speak with? Who did he meet? What clothing did he wear? And a lot of people will say, well, how is he going to remember that from 6.5 years ago? Think back to anything that has happened, a major news event. And we're talking about, for this community, a double homicide of 2 innocent children. That is major news. You look back in your own life when something happened that was major news. Where were you on that day? What were you doing? I can remember where I was on 9/11, exactly what I was doing. Then We was at a NASCAR race when Earnhardt was perished in a crash, and so we remember those dates. And when we remember those dates, we remember a lot about them. We remember who we talked to when we came back, and he'll have to address all these issues. And both the defense will go after him on it from their perspective, and the prosecution from their perspective. And it's going to be opposite poles of what those meanings and what he verbalized and who he communicated with. Did he make calls while he was on the trail that day? Was his phone on him? He went to the law enforcement and said, "Hey, I was on the trail." But what if his phone is at his house all day, and he didn't have it on the trail with him? So there's going to be a lot of information out there that he's going to have to cover that he wasn't, when these trained attorneys, both prosecution and defense, when they started lining all their information and creating a storyline and a timeline to explain it, that's where you have to convince those jurors and the alternate jurors of what your story is and why your story is the main thing. And if he is a witness, they're going to ask him things like, what did you see suspicious on the trail that day? Who did you see on the trail that day? Who do you think it was? And did you see Libby and Abby? Did you speak to Libby and Abby? Did Libby and Abby ask you a question and you told them down the hill? We don't know what will come of this. We don't have the full video. Law enforcement does. They'll know what that interaction is. And if they can convince, the jury that this is Richard Allen that's coming across that bridge and talking to them, or was that another individual and Richard Allen was somewhere else on the trail? Was he a part of another part? Was he the other bad actor and we have another actor on the bridge? We don't know all the stories and all the details yet, but we will. Then, of course, they'll ask him, well, what time did you leave at the trails that day? And, and because we don't know. We don't know what's in that information that he provided to that conservation officer that day. And then they'll ask him also, once you found out that there was something occurred out there on the trails that you was a part of, that you said that you was there part of that day, did you go back and help search? Where did you search? Who was on your team? What did you do? How did you help? Did you tell anyone in the search, hey, I was up here earlier? And who are those individuals? Who did you speak with? Who did you share it with? And so he has placed himself there, and he has put himself behind the 8 ball, and the defense will have to come around to explaining some of this. But the prosecution has to prove still that he is the guilty party. He doesn't have to prove that he's innocent, but they will ask these questions, and he'll have to get in that circumstantial evidence, which is also indirect evidence. I'm having to look at some of the notes, to tell his story of what his timeline and what his encounters that day, and who did he recognize, who recognized him, who did he talk to. So it's a very a lot of details in this story that will be presented to the court by the prosecution first, and then the defense will have to answer a lot of this information. Then we'll have the Richard Allen's recall of February 13th and 14th. And this is pretty critical because no one knew that I know of in all the social media that there was an individual working at a pharmacy that
No.
There we go. All right, guys. Sorry about that power flickering for whatever reason.
You're having a storm.
Yeah, we got storms passing through, so sorry about that. But anyway, we're here now.
All right.
Let me get to where we were at. Yay! I'm glad we're back, guys. I'm sorry about that, but we don't have any control over that, and hopefully we don't have any more outages. Let's see, where were we at? We was at this, okay. But Richard Allen is going to have to his recall. Like I said, we all have times in our life where a major event has occurred, and where we discussed certain things, certain major things, like if something happened like on 9/11, where were we at? What did we discuss? If there was something that had occurred in your neighborhood, if there's been a murder in your town, who did you share information with? It? Have you witnessed something in your life that was major? And you had to think, who did you talk to? Did you report information into law enforcement? Did you tip something in? Or did you just speak to certain individuals? And Richard Allen will have to address these issues because he reported that he was at the bridge. And who did he report it to? When did he report it to? And why did he report it? Because the defense, of course, is going to say that he's a good witness, that he's trying to help the case. And then, of course, you'll have the prosecution with their stance that may be that that he had to because he was fearful that someone on the trail saw him that day and recognized him. They have evidence that is supporting. They have that digital footprint, cell tower, cell phone data, and they'll have, they'll try to present whatever information they have from witnesses onward to him saying that he's there and why he would report it and whatever information they have to support that. And then they'll ask him that we see a lot of times is that think of all the suspects that we've seen in this case, from the brothers who, the McCain brothers that live in that community, to the family of Libby and Abby, to the lady that took the picture on the bridge, the man that was with his girlfriend out there that was, had been, there's so many people that have been accused of being bridge guy, that you look at all of those people and they shared their stories and talked to people in the community. And did Richard Allen do that? And what information did he share? Well, if he did share it, it was not ever brought to the attention. All these other people, a lot of them, they were discussed on social media. Some of them were interviewed by news crews. Some of them were interviewed by podcasters. Their names were brought up frequently. Richard Allen does not fit that profile. He was, whatever he discussed, did he tell his co-workers? And law enforcement's going to go and ask and say, this, what did he tell you about this crime, what he was doing that day when he was off? What did he say about the families? And while it may be indirect or circumstantial evidence, law enforcement is going to be very interested in what information he shared and what information he's willing to tell with who he shared it with. Did he tell his wife? Did he tell family? Did he tell friends? And if he didn't, and like I said, in one of our future broadcasts that we'll do, I'll discuss some of that as far as how law enforcement would look at your initial persons who are on the trail that day and what was their pre-crime movements, what happened on the crime, and then after it, what was their movements, what did they discuss, who did they discuss that they was on that trail with that day, and if he kept silent, why? And he came forward to speak with that law enforcement officer, And did he continue speaking to the rest of the community saying, I was there that day? And if not, that is something that will have to be analyzed and will be looked at strongly by law enforcement. That he kept that story out of the media, kept it out of everyone's. He reported it once and took a back seat. Don't know if that's true or not. He may have spoke to 1,000 people. We don't know yet, but I'm looking forward to that answer. And that will give certain weight that if he did not share all this information on one of the, if I was on that trail that day and I was walking it and 2 girls were murdered on that trail, what information did you share with law enforcement? What assistance did you offer to law enforcement? Did you help them in creating a sketch of people you saw on that trail? Did you help them create a list of persons that you saw on the trail that day? What was your wearing? What information did you give law enforcement about your movements that day? And who else did you share that information with? Because that's all going to be key information for the as we move forward through this case. And both prosecution and the defense will make a lot of hay with it either way. And it'll be extremely interesting of how each of them use it to progress their opinions and their points. But if you have any information about this case of other persons or bad actors or information about Richard Allen that has anything to do with this case, contact law enforcement, the prosecutor, defense, contact someone, share that information. Derek Farmer became it. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate your support because it means so much that we make sure justice is served for Libby and Abby. And that is only by that the right persons are brought to trial and the right persons are found guilty. And that's all we want for our court systems. But anyway, if we got some questions, we'll get into those.
Odd thing to say. All right, let's see here.
But while she gets started on that, I want to thank all our members and everybody and everyone that watches and helps and shares this information. It allows us to do certain things, and we most certainly are indebted to you.
All right. First one is Ruckus Rocks Podcast. I have to try to say that, a tongue twister.
Oh, my goodness.
Have you watched any of my videos by any chance, Steve?
When I saw that earlier, I looked you up, and I see you're a new channel and everything, but I'll go check you out and just do the right thing. You have a audience that's across the world, and try to always have good intent and work with everybody. And I wish you the best.
And Brendan Brooks, I can't believe that this Allen is going to put the families through this tragedy again with a trial. This is quite disturbing.
And we have to look at this, but it is his constitutional right, and it guarantees, the trial will guarantee that justice is served with information. We just, probable cause is so much less than without a shadow of a doubt, or that when those juries go in there and they have to weigh the evidence and they have to determine that this is the individual responsible, which is the bar is really high, is set high for that, and it should be. Probable cause just allows them to be secured, arrested, and brought to trial. But we have to make sure that individual has a right, and that bar is set high for a conviction, and that's what we have to wait for. Thank you, Single Mama, for best live ever. I live at True Crime With. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. And I have to mention that Homeless of America birthday is today.
Oh, okay.
And they are in your chat.
Okay. Thank you.
So happy birthday. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
All right. And Steve, do you think the DA wants the PC sealed to build a case against RA?
No, the law enforcement and prosecution for so long has asked the public for information. and they still want that information. I believe that there is certain information in there for another tentacle, as has been mentioned by Doug Carter about this case. And are they following up on those? That's the only reason I believe it would be sealed. What they have for the probable cause and the movements and the determination to charge him wasn't taken lightly. And they have information and evidence, or they wouldn't have. I mean, you go after somebody for murder, you've got to have something substantial. And if you don't, shame on you. And so we're about to find out a lot of that. But I think there has to be third parties or involved in this, or there's stuff that they're having to protect. And what caused them to act sooner than later, I don't know yet, but I'm looking forward to finding that out.
And Ruckus, him placing himself there is only a rumor until confirmed by LE. I still haven't heard from the conservation officer that he allegedly spoke to. And
that's true. We don't know. But if he did, and then if he has, there was a file on him, or there's some, in all rumors and in all information, there has to be a basis of some truth to it, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. And as I say, when I go into the futures, I'm going to be looking at what certain tips may have played into this by other people. And we had a email earlier today about what is tips and how are they processed and what do they mean. Tips can be, that when you receive them, you have to weigh what that tip is, what information is in it, what information contained in that tip is only known to law enforcement. Is there other supporting evidence? What is the person that's providing this information? What is their agenda? There's a lot of variables that when you receive a tip of how you would process it and what order you would give it as far as importance. Because if you're receiving 1,000 emails and tips a day and phone calls and all these tips are coming in, you have to evaluate them, process them, what's important, which they're all important, but if some of them contain more evidence than another, those go to the head of the line.
And Diana, Steve, from my experience in this area, I suspect he talked to conservation officer at the search on the 14th. How about you?
That makes sense. And a lot of times it is the easiest path to coming to some type of speculation is often true. Not always, but I would surmise that your evaluation is probably correct. I think it was rumored first or second day.
And Junior, we don't know if he was on the bridge that day. That picture might not be him.
You're correct. All we know is that from the rumors of why they're looking at him, is that him? I don't know. If you just look at the two pictures of him here, you most certainly can look at and say, oh yeah, there's similarities, but there's similarities with Bridge Guy to a lot of people. And what was the arguments, and did they have a file on it? Diana Blake thank you, Diana Blake.
Thank you so much, Diana.
Appreciate your support. And there's going to be a lot of information and evaluation of why he was suspected and what does that file hold on him. When was that file created? If it was created by that conservation officer on day 2, and if there is truth within the rumors, then why was he not followed up on? And some of that information will be extremely interesting.
All right, one quick second. And Michelle, LE has confirmed RA is BG.
They have alluded to, that when you look at Doug Carter and you listen to his interviews, that the judge sign the arrest warrants for probable cause. So probable cause determination by law enforcement and by a judge says that. But now we have to take it to a higher standard, and the bar has been raised that when we go to the court, the jury will have to make that final determination.
Okay. All right, we got a bunch.
All right, excellent.
Okay, and the Rockaways. If Richard Allen puts himself at the scene as a witness, he may have to testify at trial to attempt to, quote, explain away his presence on the bridge.
And that will be discussed. They'll have a hearing just on that towards during the trial. That once the defense starts their process of presenting their part of the case, they'll bring in their witnesses, their evidence, their experts, and then the judge will have a hearing out of the presence of the jury. If he decides, and it will be offered to him, does he want to be a witness? The attorneys don't get to say no, he will not be. It has to be the defendant himself that will either say, yes, I understand my rights and I do not choose to testify, or I wish to testify. He has the final say on it. And the judge will make sure that his rights are observed, and they'll be part of it. Been there and seen it.
All right. Y'all are working me tonight.
Excellent. We not keep her busy.
All right. And Mick, I'm thinking part of the problem is Ellie doesn't understand the crime scene. Maybe more involved, for example, and maybe unless search turned up something, they can put RA on bridge, but not last crime scene.
And who knows? We don't know yet. Did they discover something at Allen's residence that indicates that he picked up some type of evidence from the crime scene? There's so many possibilities, so many variables out there that we just don't know about currently.
And Molly, hoping that McClellan is going to just handle the basics and a special prosecutor is brought in. If it's a DP case, is it required that the prosecutor be DP qualified?
No, I know the defense has to be. I don't know about what the state side of it is. And if he's not, and he has the resources of the state, they will get the persons that are available to the state that will assist in the case. Like I said, these attorneys, they understand the law, the prosecutor, and they have one shot at this. And they're going to bring in the biggest guns they can bring in and get as much assistance and advice as they can. Anything less than that is foolish.
And hybrid, can said footprint from 2017 still be found retrieved?
They would have had, they said, if you look at Ives' interviews, they said that they had collected a lot of data from those cell towers of relating to cell phone day of and who hadn't been back and who and what the historical information was. So it's somewhere within this case file. And, Ives alluded to it. I just don't know how much they have. Josh the Posh, if it is true about RA speaking to a conservation officer about being there, do you think it possible they had to reevaluate a given alibi? Yes. He says that he was there, but is he changing the time frame? And what was that time frame? If he says, oh, I was there and I was on the bridge at this time that this picture was made, or is he saying that, no, at the time that this picture is made, I'd already left the trail? That would require, what is his alibi then? What is his phone doing? What is persons that know him and are standing by that alibi? And so, yes, there's a lot of possibilities with that alibi.
And Will, they likely had so much info to go through, it took ages.
I agree. And on a lot of the forensic data and all this IT information that they have, that's true. But the good old basic investigations that if he did go to a conservation officer and they identified all the children that was on the trail that day that went out and said, hey, I was there, and they interviewed them. And then all the adults that said, I was there, I came there for the search. Once I became aware of what was information is, and who else did you share it with? And that's part of the stuff that they're going to have to be looking at, both the prosecution and the defense. And what part did Richard Allen play in that?
And Mick, Mr. Steve, do we know if there was some kind of break between ISP and FBI? If so, I think that comes into play as far as some of the confusion and two sketches, etc.
I'm beginning to agree with you. We know that we even now to this day have certain FBI agents that are still, I think they're retired now, but they still are going along with the Ron Logan scenario. And is that one of the things that took the Richard Allen file off the desk? Is that the FBI says, this is our guy, and they totally went after that. And then everyone just dropped the ball and said, well, he was our number one guy and he's still our number one guy. And they just didn't go back and follow up. We don't know. But we'll address that, like I said, in a future podcast, a little bit more of what might have drove the investigation away from Richard Allen, and then what might have brought him back into focus.
And too much, Mom? The main question would be, why was RA not telling everyone that was him in the video? Due to the fact that the video was the big mystery. If he could have cleared that up, why didn't he?
That's pretty much, you got it.
We've been waiting on that.
Yes, yeah, that's exact something that he would have to explain. And like I alluded to first earlier, that why would you tell the girls down the hill? What does that video and audio reveal? And if that is you, you have to explain that away. And is that why he went that on day 2, before the picture was known to the public? Did he know the picture was made of him? Did he know or suspect that other people had identified him as being there? And that's how come he had to come forward. And was that picture made of him? And he knew he didn't know where the phone was, or he may have took the phone but then lost it. We just don't know. But that's exactly the point of this. One of these theories is what you just said. Because he could have explained it away, not for the fact that that audio, Doug Carter says that the person that says them, that towed the Libby and Abby down the hill, is responsible for their murder. And so he can't explain that away.
All right, and Pigeon at True Crime Web. Mr. Steve, how far back can Ellie go with his cell footprint history? Just curious how much of a pattern can be established. Interesting stuff.
I don't know what, Snowden alluded to it whenever that information came out about how the government keeps track of all this information that's out there somewhere, and how long do these carriers keep that information? I have no idea, but we know that law enforcement would have seized it, and they did seize it because Ives said that information of the day of was in the archives. Mm-hmm. Now, did they go back to establish historical movements of that community from a day to day? Who routinely, what algorithm was used, what IT, what search engines, what what was developed to analyze that information and how was it analyzed and eliminated. And they would have looked at it, how much they had at the time, they still have, because they wouldn't have thrown that away. So whatever they collected at that time, and they may be able to go back and look at even more if those carriers keep that information. I just don't know.
And Ruckus, how would law enforcement get one's cell phone footprint?
Subpoenas, search warrants. They'll request it. Back 5 or 6 years ago, it was far easier to get information. Because I remember 20 years ago, all you did was call up the phone company and say, hey, whose number is this? And it was that simple. A phone call could get it. Then it went to subpoenas. And then now there's a lot of issues about privacy and stuff, and that they're requiring possibly search warrants and things. But I don't know what is the future of that. But hopefully they got all the information, and hopefully they got it lawfully.
And I love this one. Melissa, it's magic that we can delete messages, but still never goes away, actually.
It is. It's I just don't understand the cloud.
And Sylvia Brown, I think keeping the PC sealed will hurt the case.
The courts they'll do it whatever's in best interest of the case. It may hurt us as the web sleuth world of information, and is there possibilities that there may be some interference or missteps by people trying to generate that one lead that may hurt the case. This information that YouTube world and web sleuths have, that's not going to get into the court unless the defense or the prosecution can figure out a way to get it in front of a jury. But and will it be explored? Sure. But I don't think it'll ever have an impact on the case.
Single mama 4, if you're innocent, why would you allow yourself to get caught?
Well, and that's the thing, is that sometimes innocent people do get caught and get charged with their own crimes. And that's how come the court system requires that, there's a lot of probabilities that if you go into a room and if you've ever been accused of something, on the surface, it may look like you were guilty, but when they look further into the case and look at all the evidence, it's not you, it's someone else. And that's what we're facing right now.
And Bonnie, are you talking about the conservation officer being there off duty or RA?
I don't know if the conservation officer was volunteering there. I don't know what that interaction was or when it occurred or where it occurred. We don't know. It's just a rumor right now. And does someone out there know? Absolutely. I don't know. If you do, email me.
And Junior, what if he has different phone?
Whatever phone he had back then, and what information these cell carriers keep. And, I've had phones. I've got a phone number I've had how long?
30 years?
Yeah. I've got one phone, same phone number for 30 years. So is that the case with this? I don't know.
And Digital, does the arrest of RA answer any of the questions you had about the case?
Yes, does he fit certain parts of the profile I did? Absolutely. And is it possible that there's more information? Yes. But we just, like I said, we don't have, as YouTubers and web sleuths out here, we don't have all the information. We evaluate it, and I try to do the best I can as far as looking at how law enforcement would look at it and how they would evaluate certain things. I'm not surprised by what and where we're at today. I'm glad of where we're at today. I wish we had been in this same situation 3 months after the murders versus 6 years, going on 5.5 years, 6 years. Michelle Medito, thank you for your support. Thank you for becoming a member. That means a lot to us. It helps us do a lot of things.
And Kathleen, can you see previous chats from your live? Recall mention on chat when other people than clients were mentioned that someone commented on they are looking at RA. At the time, I was thinking, who is RA?
I have no idea. I can go look at all the chats, but we did a lot of, and I'll go back and try to do a screen through that. But and we just have to do some research on it.
All right. And Cop Facts checking in. Looks like Steve has it covered and under control.
I appreciate that. And he knows about these investigations and how that once someone is arrested, that there's a flurry of information, chaos. We have to regain control and organize everything, because when you arrest someone, everyone starts looking at that person and interactions of the suspect that's been arrested. And now you have a new wave of tips that are coming in. And what is the agenda of those? Who are those people that are supplying it? What information are they sharing? What supporting evidence do they have on these new tips that are coming in on the suspect? And creating that database, because they'll have to share that information also with the defense. Thank you good to see you tonight, Barry.
And Ann, if RA is a witness, then would not LE have invited him in for an interview, gotten his story, and then offered him deal to testify for the state against the perp, rather than jump to 2 counts arrest?
Yes, we don't know what's in that case file. We don't know when RA came on the radar, and is the initial rumors true that he went to conservation? What was that initial questionnaire that they gave him, the canvassing information they would have gathered from anyone on that bridge? What interviews were they done back then? Or if that didn't exist, if the case file was created later, what information led to the creation of the case file on Richard Allen? And what information was gathered on him, and at what point was he brought in? Was he polygraphed? And who conducted the interview? What information was gathered? And then they will have looked back in his history of, did he ever speak and tried to say, oh, that was me on the bridge that day? Who all did he share that information with? And like I said, it opens up a Pandora's box of possibilities. Charlie, AA3 super sticker. Thank you. We'll use that. I guarantee we use it. We've already used it, but thank you.
And Molly at Steve, can Ellie get a warrant to make RA say guys down the hill for a recording for analysis? Is voice analysis allowed in court?
Whenever you have expert testimony and experts brought into the court, they have to qualify. That person will qualify themselves as an expert through VORDA. They'll ask certain questions. They have to talk and explain why their opinions can be brought into court and why their opinions matter more, because you just can't self-proclaim yourself as an expert. It takes a lot of trial experience, education, expertise in a certain field that's related to what you're testifying to. So all that information will be brought before the court, and if it's there, will they request that, they may not be able to force him to say it, but they the expert would say, we requested it of him and he would not say it. And then, of course, getting that into court would take a certain hearings. And if that was brought before the jury might want to, how much weight would they give that he refused to do that? Don't know.
Jennifer Rochelle asked, can you see membership comments?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I can, whenever I'm off the air and I go into certain comments made by members, I can, but
I'm not sure what that's referencing there. So we will.
we're in StreamYard. YouTube is memberships, and it may not highlight it on StreamYard. So that may be the part of the issue.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be on the YouTube side.
Okay. All right. And Will, if RA is supposed to be a witness and there is another, it could be to make the other think that he is safe so he doesn't ditch the evidence. I am thinking RA got caught with something bad, like images.
Very possible. And the other, you see, Rich Allen was arrested several weeks ago. And so if there are other bad actors out there, they went in panic mode just as soon as they heard about that. So if there are other bad actors out there, they know who they are.
In verbal judo, if the town has only one pharmacy, how in the heck could RA not be recognized at the trail and bridge by anybody on that fateful day?
And is that where the scarf or the partial facial? And that's a good point. If he was a part of the community, and those questions will be asked. And is it as simple as that? Did someone go into that pharmacy that was a child 5.5 years ago? Now they're an adult. Did they just happen to go into the pharmacy and say, oh my goodness, look there? We don't know. Is it that simple? Could be. That someone may have had a collection of looking at him at a certain angle that they'd never seen him before and say, that's the guy I saw on the trail that day. It could be that simple. We just don't know.
Single Mama 4, why was he at the bridge to start with?
We don't know. I don't know what information he gave to the conservation officer, if information was given.
Cruising.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What was he out there for? Was it, there's certain people that go to walking trails, weekly, daily to get exercise. And is that one of his? Because he has a history of walking trails. We have from his wife's Facebook pictures of him doing this. So it was an activity that was not strange to his behavior. And the defense will make use of that.
And JDR, what evidence do we have that he did speak to a conservation officer?
We have absolutely none other than rumor right now.
And Kathleen, RA has to really keep his stories straight. Carrying a phone, you can be tracked, timing and places visited. That's
what this trail timeline and his historical timeline and activities of his phone, that they'll look at all that cell phone footprint and even searches on his computers if they have those computers, and searches of what he might have done on some of these smartphones and things. They'll be looking at that. On any of our members, that when you are members in StreamYard, it doesn't highlight that you are a member. So if we're missing some of the members' questions, I apologize for that, because StreamYard doesn't identify you as a member.
Let's see here.
That's on the YouTube side of it, and we go through the StreamYard side of it.
Okay. All right. And SB74, who would take anything but a burner phone murder?
Well, regardless of a burner phone or not, if it is a burner phone, then of course that takes it to a whole new level of planning. And to use a burner phone means that we have to have other people involved. And why would you have that burner phone in your possession if you're going to a crime scene? Because you're working with another individual, of course. And where is your other phone? What was your normal activities of usage during the day? And is that phone off? mysteriously during the same time of when these crimes occurred, or is it stationary during the time of these crimes occurred at your residence? And law enforcement will look at that and evaluate it.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, if y'all have a member on the YouTube side of it, all the mods.
I'm going to see if StreamYard has something like that for me to look at, but I can't do it right this second because I'm scared I'll lose everything I've got. All right, and Ruckus, do you know where the information originated from about Richard Allen speaking to a conservation officer?
I think Murder Sheets may have been one of the ones that came out with that information. It was and it's been in the social, or of course, YouTube creators through their mass explanation of what led to Richard Allen's discovery. And it's still up for debate. I don't know if it's true or not, but I do know that he's been charged with it. So whatever led to this day, I'm grateful for.
And Ann, just don't see the witness defense. Accomplice, maybe. Got to think Ellie has evidence linking him pretty definitively to specific crime scene before bringing on warrant for arrest for murder.
Oh, yes. And the witness defense, of course, they've got that. If it is true, they've got to pay, if he says he's there, then he is a witness to whatever timeline that he says he's there at a minimum. And so defense will have to use that to the best of their abilities. And of course, the prosecution is going to paint it the other way. And we'll see who wins this battle.
And Digital, I want to know if RA worked on the 13th and what time the BG video was taken.
In the search warrant, I think they they credit a certain time period of when that video was started and ended. And how much video do they have? Do they have more? And what information was able to be gathered from the phone that they recovered and or from the cloud? We just don't know.
I think I just figured it out. All right, and Truffles. Not many people go out there by themselves. He does not have a witness to what he was doing there.
And you may be absolutely correct. I've been out there a few times, and I think I've only been out there by myself one time.
And Dave, if the defense wants a speedy trial, the prosecution ain't ready, in my opinion.
You're probably correct. And the defense isn't either. That's a risk. And even if they did try to, there would be so many delays requested and granted by either side.
And Ann, if accused was an accomplice who didn't commit the murders and maybe thought SA was the only intent, he would be crazy not to turn state's evidence and get a deal of some sort.
And is that a possibility? Absolutely. We just don't know.
Oh, I see what they're saying.
What's happening?
Okay, I think I found it.
All right, guys, appreciate it.
Hold on 1 second for me.
Thank you, mods, for helping us. Like I said, if you see some comments out there from some of our members,
I finally saw it. Yes. Next to his.
but this is a work in progress as we try to, get the channel to grow and work through all this information. She stays quite busy. I'm gonna have to get another
Okay.
some
I'm back.
more help for her, I think.
Okay. And this is a good one. This is from Verbal Judo. Your thoughts on RA being a psychopath? Speculation has it RA looked scared. I thought psychopaths have no feelings, so don't feel fear.
Any individual that could do this, and if Richard Allen is an individual that is eventually convicted of this, and was able to do this, and then go back into a normal activity and live his life. Absolutely, I consider him a psychopath. Um, and the way they process fear is different than us. Do they have certain fears, or that they look at that they have to separate themselves from the criminal or from the act? Yes, they don't want to get caught. They don't want to lose that power. But it's a different type of processing. I don't understand it. I don't know it. I don't know if anyone truly understands how a psychopath looks at and how they feel, because their feelings towards humans and other people is totally different than ours. And so we're not able to speak in the same mental capacity as what a psychopath is. We may try to guess, but what they do to an individual and what normal humans do to individuals, two different things. And then how they go back into their life like a light switch is absolutely something that is only a psychopath or a sociopath could do.
And Dave, in my opinion, RA's wife did know he was there that day. He told her that.
It's possible.
That makes sense. Otherwise, she would be questioning. Why didn't you tell me?
And
I'd be on you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's very possible.
All right. And Ruckus ISP has said since the beginning that BG was responsible for the girls' murders. Now they say RA is BG. It's cut and dry to me.
Yep, and there's a lot of people that share your that common theory, and you may be absolutely correct.
And Kathleen, I find it suspicious that he would commit himself a couple days after murder. Where did he work prior to CVS Delphi?
I think there's a lot of stuff out there, and you can see him at Walmart. At some point, he worked at Walmart. I don't know of his job history, how long he worked at each place. I have no idea.
Okay, and Dave, obviously they are still looking for BG. The tip info is still up, so I don't know what tips they are still looking for. The DA has never clarified what they want for tips.
And that will probably last throughout the trial, that they will always keep it open if they don't identify the other bad actors.
And Dave, if the rumor is true and RA talked to a ranger to let him know he was there that day, his wife would have thought he was innocent. See?
Yep.
Told you.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of things to be said about family relationships and things that, what was their relationship? How volatile was it? And law enforcement and prosecutors will look at, the defense will look at that.
All right. And Holy Diver, I personally believe that the tip line is still open and being touted, still to continue to keep all of us guessing and in the dark as much as possible.
Now, and part of that may, but they're keeping it open because it's good law enforcement, that you have good intent, that if there are others involved that need and to ensure that we find justice, that law enforcement hasn't missed anything. I agree. They should keep them open always. Even after a crime has been adjudicated through the courts, you should still always accept whatever information you got, because you never want someone that is innocent ever to be convicted. Angela Patrick, you two just found you on Grizzly True Crime. Keep up the good work. P.S. You've got the awesome grandpa voice. Oh my goodness.
That's priceless.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
I appreciate
you so much.
your support. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
Oh, that's a good one. And Deborah Young. Hello to one of my favorite couples. I'm still holding my own, still fighting the fight.
Great.
Keep it up, Deborah. You're still on the prayer
I
chain.
hope you're feeling better today and everything. And everybody, keep her in your thoughts and prayers.
And KC, when do you think the judge will make her ruling? Days, weeks, months? Will she wait till February? Doesn't seem like she'd be allowed to wait till then.
I'm surprised if the prosecution gave them a redacted version that she didn't just stamp it and said, we're going to start with this one and then change it as they progress. And so I'm anticipating that to come out at some point because the defense says we want it out there. Carter says that he doesn't think there's anything in there that will hurt the case. And now you have where they're looking at it and the defense says, okay, here's a heavily redacted one. I figured she'd stamp it and go. And that may be the case. We'll just, time will tell.
And Truffles, has a murder weapon been found?
Don't know. I hope.
Jen Saves Dogs. I just love that name. I would still like to know who brought up RA name saying he did it on Reddit in 2017. I heard it mentioned a few times months ago, but nothing since.
I don't know. I hadn't seen this or heard of this until you just mentioned it.
And Freckled Joy, they were talking about a different Richard on Reddit. So who knows?
Yeah. Like
Who knows? Okay. And Digital. Or that could be him in the video, but the video was taken at a different time. Something didn't add up before RA was arrested and still doesn't add up, in my opinion.
Yes. We, like I said, law enforcement and has the information about when that video was made. The FBI's, information they related to that video being at a certain time, containing certain information, they attribute being made at a certain date and time. Is that correct? I don't know, but that will have to be proven in trial without a doubt.
And Wally, how does one person be able to handle two teenagers? I think there was two people involved.
Yes.
I still wonder about that.
Statistically, it does. It's so rare for one offender, but I've handled multiple offenders in my life.
You're a little bigger than 5'4".
I know, but multiple offenders, and I've been in fight with multiple offenders in my life, and it can be done. It gets hairy at some point in my career, but it can be done. So was a firearm used? More than likely.
And KC, is Indiana a unanimous decision death penalty state?
I don't know. I would imagine it would be. Death penalty is pretty, I would imagine it would. It's like most states would be.
In Ruckus, the attorneys for Richard Allen will more than likely waive his right to a speedy trial soon, which could push his court date out a long way.
You're correct. It will be a long time, a couple of years, which, as like I said, there's a lot of stuff and they still got thousands and thousands of tips, and the defense will have to look at those thousands and thousands of tips.
And SB 74 at Steve, what could be the minimum LE would need on Allen for the search warrant?
The exact same thing that they used to get the search or the arrest warrant for Richard Allen, the probable cause for an arrest. That information that just like in the Ron Logan, that they said that he's guilty of certain things that happened on his property. With Richard Allen, they would have probably included within the probable cause search warrant that if it's true that he says he was at the trail the day of, he matches the description, has clothing. We have cell phone information. We have witnesses. What information? I don't know, but it's not a high standard for probable cause. Just more than likely that he was the one that's responsible would get that search warrant.
Okay, so that was all of my starred ones.
Okay.
Okay, but there's like a gazillion more.
Excellent.
But it's 9:20.
Okay.
And we have one question from Robert. He knows you're a busy man, but have you been keeping up with the Idaho murders?
Yes, I've been looking at it and talked to mod crew, Chris, about it a time or two. And yes, it's. I was actually gathering some information on it pre-show of this, and I'll be at some point probably going on the mob crew in the next week or so and discussing that case.
All right. So do you want me to cruise through here, or are you
Yeah,
good
cruise.
for tonight?
We'll cruise for just another 3 or 4 or 5 questions, and then
All right. So let's
if you
go
see anything.
see.
And like I said, once again, any of our members that have asked questions, if we missed you, we're going to try to correct that where our members get placed up
that's
front.
what I'll do. Hold on
Yeah, just downsize it or something.
Okay, so
go to YouTube.
Bear with me one second.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can jump over there and
if we lose y'all or anything,
what they're talking about.
If we lose y'all, we had a great show tonight, guys. Hopefully, we won't lose you. And she's pulling it up now. And we're going through the ads.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. And let's see if it pulls up the questions.
It's not giving me any chat, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to have to
hit the
yeah, I will.
Refresh, and it may pull it up.
Let's see here. But will that?
There it goes.
Here we go.
Yep.
All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm cruising back as it won't go all the way back, I don't guess. I know we've got some members that have been around for a little while. Bree, are you guys in-based?
I don't know.
Let me go back on that one.
I don't know what that means.
But let me go see. Let me
as she scans through that and everything, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight
okay,
and being a part of this.
Indiana based.
Oh, okay.
I got it now.
Thank you for the no, we're out of Georgia. The grandfather Georgia voice. But I'm a boy from the South. Old country boy.
All right. And
thank you for that donation. Yeah, we're going to have to figure out some way to make sure we address these issues.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. So I'm going to have to go. Usually, baby Nikki, baby Stevie.
Yeah, baby Steve.
Baby Steve sends me information about members that have been around 2 months, 3 months, whatever. But so I can't get it tonight. But I promise I'm going to do better on that one.
Okay. But anyway, guys, if y'all have any questions or anything on this case or other cases, email me at steve@truecrimeweb.com or put it in the comments. Share this video, put it out there as much as possible. We appreciate it. We thank everybody that supports this channel. It means a lot to us. And I've been talking to some of the co-case families, just actually been talking to 2 private investigators, one in Indiana today and one in Texas. And as we move forward on a couple more co-cases, and but working the co-cases, it's hard to create and share some of the information because we're creating certain things to generate leads as we move into those cases. And but we're looking forward to doing that. And we're looking forward to sharing some of that information as soon as possible. But as far as tonight and everything, we appreciate everybody that's been here tonight. And if you have any information, like I said, tip it in to law enforcement, to prosecutor, or to the defense, and let's make sure that we get justice for Libby and Abby, because they deserve it. And, that's pretty much it for tonight, guys. See y'all soon.
Thank you so much, mods. I know I worked you tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, everybody. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving. We love you.
See you soon.